Yeah. Um, Keeping with the Dukes that has it. Like I said, it was gonna play a part in this story quite a few times. It's gonna be a running theme and running joke. Um, Uncle Jeff and I, we are headed out west. Um, and we're all over the map. You know what I mean? We're coming from like a zigzag pattern, coming from shit. I want to say like the northeast somewhere, maybe Pennsylvania, and we were ended up in Oklahoma, but we stopped in Iowa somehow, like right in the middle of Iowa, in Benburn, Iowa, and you know we crisscrossed the country a couple of times. And as a truck driver and you're doing team, you drive while your partner sleeps, and you sleep while your partner drives. Y'all alternate. And so this is my time to sleep, and Jeff is driving, and we end up in. I have no idea where I'm at yet. And I wake up, I'm in the truck, look around, I'm in the Burger King parking lot. Okay, where the fuck am I at? And I look up in the front, Jeff got a note on the dashboard. Be back in 2 hours. 2 hours from when? You don't have a time on here. Oh, I climb out the truck. I go in the grocery store, and there's a grocery store right there about a few things, few little products. You know what I'm saying, as far as like to keep the stock of the truck up. And I asked the cashier like, "Hey, where am I at?" She's like, she just kind of blew me off and was like, "What the fuck is wrong with him?" I didn't make myself clear. So I went on here, took that shit in there, and I went to. I didn't think to look at the receipt. Like I said, I just woken up. And I go into the Burger King, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm a truck driver. The guy's driving that truck out there. I'm teaming, and so I was asleep when my teammate was driving. Where am I at right now? Like, what city and state? What time zone am I in?" She's like, "Oh, Minburn, Iowa." I was like, "Oh, okay. I've never been there before. My first time, not in Iowa, but in Minburn, dead in the middle of no fucking where in Iowa." So I give me a little biscuit and shit. Go back to the truck, sitting there eating. About 45 minutes go by, and I hear two. This is around when 2 Chainz birthday song. All I want for my birthday is a big booty girl, and somebody thumping that shit coming through the parking lot. And I'm looking out the window and shit, and here I see this fucking Buick, like a Buick LeSabre, flying towards the goddamn truck through the parking lot. And the motherfucker did one of them Dukes of Hazzard shit for real this time. Like he must have started hitting the motherfucking hitting that bitch hard, cutting that bitch hard to the right, and goddamn snatched up the motherfucking emergency breaker. He pulled that bitch off. Nice. Tire marks and shit. Stopped right like 2, 3 feet in front of the truck. It's fucking Jeff. 65-year-old surfer dude I'm talking about. He looks just like George Carlin. That's the best way I can describe it. George Carlin, the 80s comedian that was like, talking about like political shit all the time or whatever. And so he's like, "Man, come on, get in the car with me. I need you to go somewhere with me." I'm like, "All right." We hop in the whip. Shit, we riding around and shit. The motherfucker stopped at some other older white dude house. And, they sitting there talking on the porch and shit. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I want to introduce you to my friend." Or his friend was like, when I got out the car, I was kind of like, damn, he is, what the fuck did he say? Healthy. I was like, the fuck? Like, y'all niggas. Anyway, so we go up. Apparently, this the motherfucking weed man. He's just as old as Jeff, and they still thugging and shit. You know what I'm saying? He was like, they was telling me about the time when Jeff had left fucking Iowa in a brand new Charger, and he had like 50, 60 pounds of some exotic in the motherfucking car, and got busted with that shit. And this was like the brand new Charger that just came out, like in the past like decade or so. I'm like, God damn, nigga, I mean, when it's in you, it's in you. And so, motherfucking, Jeff talked him into giving us like a QP and shit. You know what I'm saying? And so we ride from there. Like I got one more stop to make before we take it in for the, we were shut down for the weekend. We were doing our 34, and we were going to end up doing it in Iowa. So we go to Family Dollar. We in there, Family Dollar and shit. We motherfucking about 2 ski masks, 2 fucking sets of gloves, rope, like that little yellow twine and shit. How about 50 feet of rope, duct tape. You can see where this is going, right? And I'm like, the fuck? Oh, and then them little kid handcuffs and shit that they sell in the store. and something else. It was like a fly swatter. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is an odd assortment of shit. I'm thinking we got to fix something on the truck, and then we're gonna have to rob somebody later. You never know with Jeff. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I don't know what the fuck. Like, we about to run in the dope man house and rob everybody. I don't know what the fuck about to go down. So then we pull up to this apartment. Jeff gets out. Like, come on in, man. We got all of the shit with us. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to tell you about what the fucking cash shit's like. Because this is, evident, like, obvious. I should have known that. So we get to the cash register, beeping all of that shit in, and the girl is like, what the fuck? Beep, beep, beep. Came up like, I don't know, $30 or whatever. She was like, one rape kit. 38, 9, whatever the fuck the price was. And so I'm like, okay, all right. So we ride and shit, and we get to this little apartment or whatever. Jeff hops out, the bags and shit in hand, got all the weed or whatever. And, he opens the door and just goes in, and I'm still sitting there in the car. Like, I haven't been invited in yet. I don't know what the fuck you about to do. I didn't know you had an apartment here. Like, what the fuck? Like, I thought you was in California. And so I'm sitting there pondering all of this shit. Apparently he done set up shit in the house. So he pokes his head back outside. Hey, man, come on in. I'm like, all right. So I come in the crib and shit. There's a dog in the living room and shit. Big ass bong sitting on the table. I'm from the South, so I have to be invited to places. This motherfucker ran straight back to the bedroom. And he pokes his head out. Hey, Fred, come on back here, man. I'm cautious at this point now, because you never know what the fuck about to happen with Jeff. And so I pop in the room. There's a decent, I'd say she had to be about mid-40s then. I was about 35 at the time. She had to be about 45, 46. Cindy. Little dirty blonde hair, I hate to say dirty blonde, strawberry blonde. Dirty blonde just sounds so derogatory. And so she pops up on the bed. It's like, is this him? Ooh, he is big. I was like, what the fuck? And then I look over at Jeff. This motherfucker's already naked. He got the ski mask on and shit. He putting the gloves on and shit. And the motherfucker started ripping the duct tape apart. He's looking at me butt-ass naked with a fucking ski mask on. He was like, get undressed. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, Jeff, no. Like, what the fuck? What's going on? He was like, oh, she got a rape fantasy. We're about to gangbang her right quick. So I'm like, Jeff, I'm married. I was married at the time, and I was faithful. You know what I'm saying? You can fuck with him 1,000 miles away, or whatever the scenario is. And so I'm like Jeff, like, this is just so bad all the way around for me. I'm a black man in the middle of Iowa. I don't know no fucking body here. And you just said that we about to have this rape fantasy with this white woman that we're going to tie. It's just all the way bad for me, Jeff. And besides, like I said, I'm married. I don't do cheating shit. And so she's like, so y'all got the bud right here. Like, y'all left it in the living room on the table, in the bowl or whatever. And they had like a fucking big ass Tupperware bowl sitting on the table. And I said, you know what? I'm not, and then she started getting undressed and he's smacking on the ass with the fly swatter and shit. And I'm like, all right. And he started tying her up, and I just went on ahead in the motherfucking living room. And I sat down at the table and shit. And, we got the QP in that motherfucker. So I'm like, all right. I started digging weed out of this shit. And then he was like, she's like, oh, yeah, remind him about I heard her say, like, remind him about the dog. He said, oh, yeah, don't forget about the dog. I'm like, don't forget about the dog what? I'm about to find out what the fuck going on with the dog. So I'm sitting there, I done got that big ass fucking bone, that shit filled with the bone water at the bottom. I threw me a couple of nuggets on that motherfucker, and I'm just sitting there. And then the dog starts fucking nudging my leg and shit. And I'm like, I hit the motherfucker in. Dog nudging my leg like a motherfucker. And I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, woof, woof. Doing that soft like, woof, woof. And I'm like, looking at the bone, looking at the dog. And I was like, hold on. I hit it again, and boy, you could nudge my leg. I just blew a shotgun and smoke. He was like, he's trying to bite the smoke and shit. And and so, he was like, no, let the dog hit the bone. I was like, how the fuck do y'all know what I'm doing? All right, okay, so I said, nah, ain't no fucking way in here. So I was like, well, fuck it then. I put the, you know what I'm saying, the little bone up to the dog's nose and shit. Motherfucker stuck his snout in there and shit. and like got a nice little vacuum seal going and shit, and I lit that motherfucker up, and I be goddamn the dog on this motherfucker hitting the bone. I had to lift the little carburetor up and shit. Yo, that motherfucker, me and the dog got high in the motherfucker now, and I was sitting there like, I see why the dog smoke weed. You dealing with shit like this. So me and the dog got high in the motherfucker in the living room. We was sitting there like the Brain on Drugs video and shit. I'm passing, me and the dog in rotation with each other. Yeah, that was Jeff. So we leave there, we chronicling across the United States. And one night, we end up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And, we hitting the MLK side of town. And I'm like, MLK, what the fuck? I look at Jeff like, all right, okay. I already know that we in the hood now, because when you see MLK, that's how you know where the fuck to find the hood at. He go right down, like, pull up in the Boondocks area, like on some Jones Street type of shit. You know what I'm saying? And then pull down in this dirt gravel parking lot and shit, and it was a truck stop, but it was gangster than a motherfucker. And it was like motherfuckers out there selling dope and shit in front of the store and all of that. And a motherfucking lady standing right there at the fuel pump that we pulled up to. Apparently Justin already made arrangements on the way down here. And so this motherfucker sent me on a dummy mission into the store to get beer and cigarettes. I'm like, the fuck? Like, nigga, you don't never send me on no fucking dummy runs. Like, and so I'm like, I ain't even really think much of it. He gave me like $40 and shit, and I hopped out. I'm like, damn, that's a lot for fucking cigarettes. Do you want me to get a carton or something? He was like, nah, just give me a pack of Marlboros, and then, we'll just split a fucking 12-pack or whatever. He was like, you pick the beer or whatever. I'm like, all right. So as soon as I motherfucking hop out the truck, that lady hops in. I'm like, okay, maybe he getting some dope or some shit. I'm just thinking like 2 days ago, he just fucked Cindy. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't thinking like it is what the fuck it really is. So I go in the store, come back out. That motherfucking truck is looking like motherfucking a lowrider 6'4" in a fucking Dr. Dre video in the 1990s. Motherfucker hopping like he got hydraulics rocking side to side and shit. It's hitting the 3-wheel motion and shit. I'm like, god damn, Jeff in there fucking the shit out that lady. So I sit on the catwalk back there on the back of the shit, and I just started fucking smoking the cigarettes and shit. Still had some of that weed from Cindy. Hit the joint a couple times, and and start cracking open the beer, and like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this motherfucker? And so I don't know, about 15, 20 minutes go by. You know what I'm saying? The lady pops her, she opens up the passenger door and shit, and she pokes me out. She's like, hey, where you at, Fred? And I was like, huh? Like, how the fuck you know my name? And I come around that side. She was like, you ready for me to suck your dick now? I was like, and then Jeff pops his head from the back. I've already paid for it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm flattered. I'm glad that you want to include me into the sexual escapades and all of that. But again, I'm married. We just discussed this back in Iowa with Cindy. And then she said, well, shit, I don't do refunds. You've already paid me. And he was like, well, shit, I'm going to have to work up a round two. I said, a round fucking two. So I just took a walk at that point. Apparently this motherfucker got, he got stamina or whatever. And he went on ahead and got that second rock off. Yeah, that's the end of part 2 for Uncle Jeff. And there's quite a few more stories for me. This is, I don't know, maybe a week of me riding with him thus far. But yeah, that damn Uncle Jeff.